Welcome back to Sleepy Poker. In this lesson, we'll explore 30 insights designed to help you play better tournament poker. These tips come from the quiet mindset of professional players who have learned to stay patient under pressure. Whether you're playing live or online, each idea will guide you toward clarity, discipline, and a stronger edge at the table. Chapter 1. Understanding Tournament Structure. Every poker tournament has a heartbeat. It rises and falls through blind levels, antes and player eliminations. Understanding this rhythm is the first step toward mastering tournament play. While cash games allow you to buy in and leave freely, tournaments follow a strict structure that rewards patience, planning, and awareness of timing. Each decision you make is shaped by the invisible pressure of increasing blinds and the constant reduction of the field. At the beginning, stacks are deep. Everyone has plenty of room to maneuver, and mistakes are often recoverable. You can afford to wait, to study opponents, and to pick spots that build a foundation for the later stages. Many beginners fail here by trying to win too much too early. They see big pots and chase them without understanding that tournaments reward endurance more than speed. The early levels are about observation. You are learning who plays loose, who folds often, and who cannot resist chasing draws. As blinds rise, that freedom begins to narrow. Each orbit costs more chips, and suddenly small pots matter. The players who understood structure from the start begin to separate themselves. They built small advantages early and avoided large risks. They protected their tournament life by thinking ahead rather than reacting to the moment. Stack size relative to blinds is one of the most important numbers to track. Professionals often think in terms of big blinds rather than chip counts. A stack of 20,000 chips can be large at one level and small only 2 levels later. By measuring your depth in big blinds, you can plan your ranges more accurately. Deep stacks allow for speculative hands and post-flop creativity. Shorter stacks require discipline and pre-flop precision. Antes change the landscape even more. When antes enter, every pot suddenly becomes more valuable. There is more dead money to fight for, and stealing blinds becomes a profitable necessity. You will see players start opening wider and defending their blinds with greater frequency. Understanding that shift before it happens allows you to adapt instead of getting caught off guard. Table dynamics also evolve as players bust out and new ones take their seats. In early stages, people are relaxed and talkative. As the field shrinks, tension builds. The blinds feel heavier, and mistakes cost more. Those who can stay calm under this mounting pressure gain a psychological edge. The structure is not only a schedule of blinds, it is a psychological curve that tests patience and emotional control. Pay attention to the tournament clock. Many events publish the blind schedule in advance. Study it before you play. Know how quickly levels increase and when antes begin. In fast structures, chip accumulation matters more because blinds grow rapidly. In slower deep stack structures, endurance and technical skill carry greater weight. Tailor your mindset to the pace of the event you are entering. As you move toward the middle stages, the goal is to survive while keeping a workable stack. The players who ignored the structure will now face difficult choices with dwindling chips. You, however, will still have room to act, bluff, and pressure others. That is the quiet reward of understanding structure. It gives you control while others are forced into desperation. When you reach the final table, the structure still matters. Payout ladders and short stacks dictate every hand. The ability to adjust your ranges according to the pressure of the blinds becomes the key to victory. Great tournament players think of structure not as a restriction, but as a map. It tells them when to tighten, when to expand, and when to apply force. By respecting the tournament's rhythm, you transform chaos into flow. You begin to see not just hands, but chapters within the story of the event. Every rise in blinds is a turning page, and every adjustment you make keeps your story alive. The players who listen to that rhythm play with confidence and calm, and they are the ones still seated when the final hand is dealt. Chapter 2: Early Stage Priorities. The early stage of a poker tournament is a calm sea before the waves begin to rise. Stacks are deep, blinds are gentle, and the tempo feels forgiving. Yet beneath that calm lies the foundation for your entire run. Every decision you make here, no matter how small, sets the tone for the hours that follow. Your priority in these early levels is not to win the tournament, but to learn its landscape. At the beginning, patience is your greatest weapon. Too many players mistake the early stage for a race. They want to build a stack quickly, to prove dominance, or to create a story that will carry them through. The truth is quieter. Early levels are designed for observation and selective engagement. Every hand you fold gives you more time to study tendencies and behaviors. Watch who talks during hands and who sits silently. Notice how long players take to bet, how often they raise from early position, and how they respond to pressure. This information becomes invaluable later, when the blinds grow and decisions are heavier. Play tighter than you would in a cash game. The deep stacks can be tempting, but speculative hands lose much of their value against unpredictable opponents. Focus on playing strong starting ranges in position. Position gives you the most control over pot size and the clearest view of your opponent's intentions. Early levels reward players who act last and think ahead. Being in position allows you to extract value with confidence and control the flow of every hand. Your goal is to preserve chips while identifying players who will give theirs away. The early stage is full of loose calls, hopeful bluffs, and overplayed top pairs. Let others take those risks. By avoiding unnecessary confrontations, you protect your tournament life. Remember that you cannot win a tournament in the first hour, but you can easily lose it. Small pots won with precision are more valuable than big pots chased recklessly. One of the best early habits is to play for information rather than for glory. When you enter a hand, think about what you will learn from it. Even if you lose a small pot, the data you collect can repay you later. If you discover that a certain opponent bluffs missed draws, or that another folds to continuation bets, you have gained something lasting. These details shape your strategy as blinds rise and the table tightens. Pay attention to stack sizes around you. Deep stacks may seem harmless now, but they define how you should approach each opponent. Against short stacks, avoid marginal calls that risk doubling them up. Against deeper stacks, tread carefully when out of position. Deep opponents can float flops and pressure you with large bets on later streets. Early awareness of these dynamics keeps you out of trouble. You should also begin building your table image from the start. A tight, composed presence in the early levels earns respect that you can later use for well-timed bluffs. Players remember the quiet, patient ones. When you finally show aggression, it will be believed. This image is your investment for the middle and late stages, when the blinds make stealing necessary and credibility matters most. Emotionally, this is the time to settle in. Find your breathing rhythm, manage distractions, and let yourself relax into the pace of play. Poker tournaments are marathons of decision-making. Mental clarity and consistency often outperform pure aggression. Do not chase variance or force action. Your best opportunities will come naturally as weaker players expose their impatience. If you find yourself card dead, accept it as part of the process. Folding is not failure. You are conserving energy and avoiding unnecessary variance. Trust that your moment to strike will appear when others are fatigued or careless. The early stage is not about fireworks but about foundation. When you reach the first break with your starting stack intact and a mental notebook full of observations, you are ahead of most of the field. You have played with control, learned your environment, and set yourself up for the shifting pace that comes next. Patience in the early stage is not passive. It is strategic restraint. Every calm fold and every quiet observation brings you closer to the point where aggression will matter most. In tournament poker, those who build slowly often stand longest. Chapter 3. Playing deep stacks. When stacks are deep, poker transforms into a game of patience, precision, and layered thinking. Every decision carries the possibility of future streets, and the margin for creativity widens. In the early and middle stages of most tournaments, you will often find yourself playing with more than 100 big blinds. This depth gives you the freedom to construct stories, control pot sizes, and extract value with greater care. But it also invites danger. Deep stacks reward the disciplined player who balances imagination with restraint. The first rule of deep stack play is to slow down. You do not need to chase big pots or force action. Your advantage lies in the number of decisions you can make over time. Every street gives you new information, and deep stacks allow those streets to matter. Approach each hand like a quiet chess match. Your opening move is not meant to win instantly. It is meant to position you for later success. Deep stacks favor position more than any other factor. When you act last, you can build pots when ahead and control damage when behind. Out of position, large stacks can become a trap. You may find yourself calling pre-flop raises with hands that look playable but become difficult to manage on later streets. Avoid bloating pots without a clear plan. Deep poker is about control, not chaos. Speculative hands such as suited connectors, small pairs, and suited aces become more valuable when stacks are deep. They can hit disguised strong hands that win big pots against overconfident top pairs. However, these same hands lose much of their value when played out of position or against aggressive opponents who do not pay off easily. The key is to enter pots selectively and to keep the pot manageable until you have clear equity or a strong read. One of the biggest mistakes in deep stack tournaments is overvaluing one-pair hands. A top pair with a strong kicker may feel powerful, but against other deep stacks, it often becomes a medium-strength holding. Learn to control the pot size with these hands. Betting for information and protecting against draws is fine, but avoid building pots where your opponent can apply heavy pressure on later streets. Discipline saves more chips than bravery in these situations. Deep play also introduces the concept of implied odds. When you call a small bet with a drawing hand, you are not only considering the current pot size, but also the potential winnings if you hit your draw. Because stacks are large, the reward can justify the risk. This principle works both ways. Be cautious about giving opponents good implied odds by betting too small with vulnerable hands. A single mistake in sizing can open the door for them to chase profitably. Patience and observation remain your strongest allies. Deep stacks stretch the game into a psychological arena. You have time to learn patterns, notice discomfort, and test how your opponents handle pressure. Some players thrive in shallow stack battles, but become transparent when deep. They fear big pots and retreat under sustained aggression. Others overestimate their ability and bluff too often, assuming they can outplay everyone. Learn which is which. The deep levels of a tournament also shape your future table image. When you make strong folds, control pot size, and play balanced ranges, other players take note. That quiet consistency builds credibility. Later, when you decide to run a major bluff or value bet thinly, that image supports your move. Every deep stack hand contributes to the long-term narrative of how others perceive you. Remember that deep stack poker is a privilege, not a guarantee. It is a phase that rewards foresight. Do not confuse the presence of chips with freedom to gamble. Instead, view each chip as a potential weapon in future confrontations. The deeper you are, the more leverage you hold over opponents with smaller stacks. Use that leverage wisely. Apply pressure when their tournament life is at risk, but avoid entering coin flips that jeopardize your own stability. By the time the blinds begin to rise and the stacks compress, your calm and measured deep stack play will pay dividends. You will have accumulated chips through steady precision, not luck. You will know your table, understand its rhythms, and carry a reputation of control. That foundation becomes your anchor as the structure accelerates and the decisions grow sharper. Deep stacks are an invitation to express skill quietly. The players who thrive here are not those who chase glory, but those who sculpt each hand with purpose. Every small pot, every careful fold, every well-timed value bet builds the story of a professional mindset. When you learn to play deep stacks with patience and intention, you stop playing the cards and start playing the tournament itself. Chapter 4: Importance of Position. Position is one of the most powerful tools in tournament poker. It decides who acts first and who acts last. Acting last means you get to see what everyone else does before you make your choice. That information gives you control over the pace of a hand and helps you avoid costly mistakes. In tournaments, chips are more valuable than in cash games because you cannot reload. Every decision matters. Playing hands in position lets you make those decisions with more clarity. You can bet for value when others show weakness, or check behind when danger appears. Out of position, you are forced to guess more often. The player who acts last sees the full picture, while the one who acts first must act in the dark. When you are in late position, such as the cutoff or the button, you can open a wider range of hands. These spots allow you to steal blinds and control pot sizes. For example, raising from the button with a hand like 9-8 suited is often profitable. You can see the flop, assess the reactions of the blinds, and decide whether to continue. Even weak hands can win small pots because of the advantage of acting last. In contrast, early position requires more discipline. You must play stronger hands because there are many players left to act behind you. Hands like ace-jack offsuit or pocket sevens can be strong in late position but risky under the gun. Someone behind you might wake up with a better hand or call in position, making post-flop play more difficult. The deeper the stacks, the more important this becomes. Position also affects post-flop play. Imagine you raise with king-queen on the button and the big blind calls. The flop comes 10, 7, 3. The blind checks, and now the decision is yours. Because you act last, you can choose whether to continuation bet or take a free card later. If you had been out of position, you would need to act without knowing what your opponent planned to do. Over time, that extra bit of information adds up to a large advantage. When you are in position, you can also control pot size. You can keep pots small with medium hands, or build them when you are strong. Out of position, opponents can force you into larger pots than you want. They can float your bets, raise in position, and pressure you on later streets. That constant disadvantage drains chips over time. Position is not only about where you sit. It is about awareness. Learn to pay attention to who is on your left and who is on your right. Aggressive players on your left make your life harder because they can re-raise your opens. Tight players on your left give you more freedom. Adjust your strategy based on who acts after you. In multi-way pots, position becomes even more valuable. The player acting last sees all the action unfold. They can decide to fold cheaply or bet only when the situation looks ideal. Those stuck in the middle often face confusion. They act without full information, making mistakes more likely. When short stacked, position still matters. You want to move all in from spots where fewer players can call you. Shoving from the button or cutoff gives you better odds of stealing the blinds than shoving from early position. Even with a few big blinds left, acting last can be the difference between survival and elimination. Over time, you will notice that the best tournament players constantly talk about position. They think in terms of where they are sitting, not just what cards they hold. Strong players fold good hands in bad positions and raise weak hands in good ones. It is not luck. It is structure and discipline. By respecting position, you trade impulse for control. You begin to see each orbit as a rhythm. Some seats give you power, others demand caution. The player who knows this flow stays balanced through every stage of a tournament. Position is not just a seat at the table. It is the quiet edge that turns patience and timing into steady progress. Chapter 5. Selecting starting hands wisely. Good poker begins before the flop. The hands you choose to play shape your entire tournament experience. Every strong player builds discipline by folding more than they play. It might feel slow, but smart hand selection is what keeps you in control. When you look down at your cards, think first about position. Early position demands strength. You should open hands like big pairs, ace-king and ace-queen suited. Middle position allows a bit more freedom. You can add pocket pairs, suited connectors, and suited aces. In late position, you can widen further. The button is the most flexible seat, where even hands like 10-8 suited or king-9 suited can be profitable. Discipline means understanding that not every playable hand should be played. Many beginners get excited when they see face cards or suited cards. Hands like king-jack offsuit or queen-10 offsuit look appealing but can lead to trouble. They make second-best hands that lose big pots. In early position, these should often be folded. Even in middle position, you should enter cautiously, unless conditions are ideal. Start by choosing hands that are easy to play. Big pairs and strong aces are straightforward. You know when they connect and when they miss. Medium strength hands, on the other hand, require more skill. If you are still learning, keep your range simple until you gain more confidence. A strong foundation of tight, solid hands will always outperform a loose, impatient approach. Pay attention to stack sizes. When stacks are deep, you can play more speculative hands that have potential to win large pots, like small pairs or suited connectors. When stacks are short, focus only on hands that can make top pair or better. There is no time for long-term draws when blinds are eating away your chips. Adjusting your starting hand range to your stack depth is one of the quiet secrets of strong tournament play. Table image also matters. If you have been folding for a long time, your next raise will look stronger. You can use this to your advantage. When you finally pick up a hand like Ace-10 suited, opponents might give you extra respect. If you have been active, tighten up for a few orbits. Let your image reset before you widen again. Do not fall in love with suited cards. Being suited adds value, but not enough to turn a weak hand into a good one. Hands like 9-2 suited are still poor because they make weak pairs that rarely win big pots. Focus instead on connectivity and high card value. 10-9 suited can make straights, flushes, and top pairs that are easier to control. Think ahead before entering a hand. Ask yourself what types of flops you want to see. If your hand depends on hitting something very specific, it might not be worth playing. If your hand has several ways to improve or to represent strength, it becomes more reliable. Planning before you act is the mark of a calm and prepared player. In tournaments, patience always beats curiosity. You do not need to see a flop just because a hand looks interesting. Every chip you save by folding a weak hand is a chip you can use later when the blinds rise. The players who chase too many hands early are often the first to fade when pressure builds. Over time, you will learn how small changes in situation affect your choices. A raise from a tight player deserves more respect than a raise from a loose one. Your position, stack size, and opponent's tendencies all blend into your decision-making process. When you take those into account, you begin to play poker rather than just play cards. Strong starting hand selection is a quiet skill. It keeps you out of trouble and lets your good hands shine. It is not exciting, but it is how great tournament runs begin. Every fold that saves chips brings you closer to the deep stages, where patience turns into power. Chapter 6: Adjusting to Opponents. Poker is not played in a vacuum. Every decision depends on the people sitting around you. Two players can hold the same cards, yet the right play changes based on who they face. Learning to adjust to opponents is one of the most important skills in tournament poker. Start by watching how your table behaves. In the first few orbits, stay observant. Notice who raises often and who folds quickly. Pay attention to how players handle different stack sizes. Some panic when short and shove too wide. Others tighten up and become easy to steal from. These details shape your strategy long before any big pot develops. Against loose and aggressive players, patience is your strongest defense. Let them build pots for you. Do not try to out-bluff them early. Wait until you have a solid hand, then allow their aggression to work in your favor. These players often bet too large and too often, which means they lose big when you finally stand firm. Let them walk into your traps instead of trying to fight fire with fire. Against tight players, the opposite approach works best. When someone folds frequently, you can apply steady pressure. Raise more often from late position and continuation. Bet on dry boards. They will surrender many pots without resistance. Just be careful not to overdo it. Once they start defending more often, scale back and reset your rhythm. Some opponents reveal strength and weakness through bet sizing. Large bets from beginners often mean strong hands. Small bets can indicate uncertainty. More experienced players might reverse this pattern to deceive you. Always take mental notes and compare their actions across multiple hands. The longer you watch, the clearer the patterns become. Adjusting does not mean copying what your opponents do. It means shaping your responses to exploit their habits. For example, if a player continuation bets every flop, you can start check-raising them with value hands or floats. If a player only bets when strong, you can fold your marginal hands without regret. Each opponent deserves their own strategy, even within the same tournament. Stack size also influences how you should adjust. When a big stack is on your left, they can re-raise you often and make your life difficult. Play more carefully when they act after you. When you have position on a short stack, you can pressure them by opening wider and forcing them into uncomfortable spots. Tournament poker is about leverage, and stack awareness is part of every adjustment. Pay attention to emotional changes. A player who just lost a big pot might start playing too many hands out of frustration. Another who just won a large pot might get overconfident. Emotion often drives bad decisions. Staying calm while others lose balance gives you an invisible edge. As tables break and new players join, reset your reads. Every new table brings a new dynamic. Do not assume your previous strategy still applies. Observe again, find the new patterns, and adjust quietly. The best players adapt faster than the rest. They can enter a new environment and understand it within a few orbits. Remember that adjustment works both ways. Your opponents are watching you too. If you have been raising frequently, they might start fighting back. When that happens, tighten your range and let them make mistakes. When you sense that your image has cooled, widen again. Poker is a constant dance between perception and timing. Adapting to opponents is not about guessing. It is about collecting small pieces of information and letting them guide your play. Every hand you watch gives you insight. Every showdown tells you something new. The more patient your observation, the more accurate your adjustments become. In the end, poker is a human game. The cards matter less than how people handle them. When you learn to see beyond your own hand and into the tendencies of others, your decisions grow sharper. You stop reacting and start predicting. That quiet awareness is what separates a solid player from a great one. Chapter 7. Value of Aggression. Aggression is the heartbeat of winning poker. Every champion learns to apply pressure at the right times and in the right ways. Passive players rely on cards to decide their fate. Aggressive players create their own opportunities. In tournament play, where blinds rise and chips hold life or death value, controlled aggression separates survival from success. Aggression does not mean recklessness. It means taking the initiative. The player who bets or raises forces others to react. When you are the aggressor, you control the pace and shape of the hand. Even if you are called, your opponent must play cautiously. The fear of elimination makes many players fold hands that could have won. Start with pre-flop. Open raising is one of the most profitable forms of aggression. When you raise instead of limping, you build fold equity. You also disguise your hand strength, since good players raise a range of holdings, not just monsters. A standard raise communicates confidence and builds a pattern that allows you to pick up small pots consistently. Over time, those small pots grow into real momentum. Aggression continues after the flop. A well-timed continuation bet can win pots even when you miss. The key is to read the board texture. On dry boards like King 7-2, a single bet often takes it down, because it is hard for your opponent to have a strong hand. On wet boards like Jack 10-9, you should be more selective. Save your bets for boards that tell a believable story. Learn the power of applying pressure with position. When you act last, your bets carry more weight. You see how your opponent reacts, and can size your bet accordingly. Sometimes a small bet achieves the same fold as a large one. Other times, a larger bet creates maximum fear. The control lies in knowing which situation you are in. Aggression also protects your strong hands. When you flop top pair or better, betting forces draws to pay. It builds the pot when you are ahead, and prevents opponents from realizing their equity for free. Many players slow play too often and lose value. A steady, assertive approach wins more chips and avoids giving away free cards. One of the quiet lessons of tournament poker is that you cannot wait for perfect hands. Blinds and antes grow fast. If you only play aces and kings, you will bleed chips between them. Controlled aggression lets you stay even or build without risk of desperation. It also creates confusion for your opponents. When you mix value bets with occasional bluffs, they cannot easily read you. Bluffing is part of aggression, but must have logic behind it. Choose moments where your story makes sense. For example, if you raised pre-flop and a flop comes low and disconnected, a continuation bet fits your narrative. But bluffing on every street without a plan burns chips. Thoughtful aggression builds credibility. Random aggression destroys it. Stack size affects how you should apply pressure. When deep, use your chips to isolate weaker players and force them into mistakes. When short, choose selective moments where the risk matches the reward. A small stack can still be dangerous when moved with precision. Opponents who fear elimination often fold too tightly to short stack aggression. Emotional control keeps aggression balanced. Frustration leads to overbetting and reckless moves. Calm aggression, on the other hand, feels deliberate and steady. You bet because it is correct, not because you want revenge or excitement. True aggression is quiet and confident, not loud and impulsive. As you grow as a player, think of aggression as pressure with purpose. You are not trying to intimidate your table. You are trying to make others uncomfortable while you stay composed. Every fold you earn is a small victory. Every time you steal blinds, protect your hand, or build value, you are playing winning poker. In tournaments, aggression keeps you alive. The players who wait for luck fade away as blinds climb. The ones who create action on their own terms stay in control. With time, you will learn to feel when the table is tightening, when fear has set in, and when your pressure will be most effective. That sense of timing is what turns steady aggression into a weapon of calm precision. Chapter 8: Protecting Your Stack. Every chip in a poker tournament represents life. Once your stack is gone, so is your seat. Protecting it is not about fear. It is about discipline and survival. Strong players understand that tournament poker is as much about what you do not lose as what you win. At any stage, your first goal is to avoid unnecessary risk. Not every spot that looks profitable is worth taking. Many players chase thin edges early and lose everything before the real game begins. Remember that tournaments reward longevity. You must be present when the important decisions appear later. Start by managing the size of the pots you play. If your hand is medium strength, do not build a pot that belongs to stronger holdings. Keep control. Bet smaller, call carefully, and fold when you feel resistance that does not make sense. Big pots should be played only with strong hands or clear plans. Stack awareness is your constant guide. Know how many big blinds you have and how your stack compares to the table. With a deep stack, you can afford more risks, but with a short one, every chip is sacred. If you have less than 30 big blinds, avoid speculative hands that need perfect conditions. Focus on hands that can win cleanly and quickly. Position is also a shield. When you act last, you protect your stack by controlling how much goes into the pot. You can choose to check back and see another card, or bet only when the moment is right. Out of position, the risk rises. Try not to call raises with weak hands from the blinds. It often leads to difficult post-flop spots that drain your stack quietly over time. Avoid emotional decisions. A single moment of frustration can undo hours of careful play. Bad beats happen. Coolers happen. Your response to them defines your results. Take a deep breath and return to logic. Ask yourself what the correct move would be if emotion were not involved. That calm reset protects both your stack and your mindset. Stealing blinds is important, but timing matters. Late in a level, when blinds are about to rise, stealing becomes more valuable. Still, do it with awareness. If the players in the blinds are short-stacked or aggressive, your attempt may backfire. Choose opponents who fold often and avoid unnecessary coin flips. Sometimes protecting your stack means folding a hand that looks too good to fold. Pocket jacks or ace-queen can be dangerous when facing heavy action from tight players. You may be ahead, but you might also be walking into a trap. Folding in those moments feels painful, but keeps you alive for better spots. Survival is not weakness. It is patience turned into strength. Big stacks require protection too. Many players get careless after doubling up. They enter too many pots and start calling just to see flops. That comfort leads to trouble. When you have a large stack, your goal shifts from survival to control. Use your chips as a weapon, not as a toy. Pressure short stacks carefully and avoid tangling with other big stacks unless the situation is ideal. Rest and focus protect your stack as well. Tournaments are long, and fatigue invites mistakes. During breaks, step away, drink water, and clear your mind. A calm and alert player protects their chips simply by staying centered. Always remember that poker tournaments are not sprints. They are slow, deliberate journeys of discipline. Protecting your stack does not mean hiding from opportunity. It means choosing those opportunities wisely. Every time you fold and live to play another orbit, you give yourself a chance to capitalize later, when others fall apart. Your stack is more than numbers on felt. It is your time, your space, and your control over the table. Treat it with respect, defend it with thought, and use it with purpose. The players who protect their stack best are often the ones still sitting quietly when the final table lights begin to shine. Chapter 9. Reading Bet Sizing. Every bet at the poker table tells a story. The size of that bet gives clues about confidence, strength, and fear. Learning to read bet sizing is one of the most practical ways to understand your opponents. It turns raw observation into decision-making power. When someone bets, ask yourself what that size means. Big bets often represent one of two things: real strength or desperation. Small bets usually mean uncertainty or a desire to control the pot. The key is to connect the size to the situation. Look at the board, the action, and the player's history before making assumptions. Start with pre-flop patterns. Some players use consistent sizes when they raise. They might open 2.5 big blinds every time. Others change their sizing depending on their hand. A raise to 4 big blinds from someone who usually raises smaller can signal a premium hand like kings or aces. Paying attention to these differences gives you a small but steady edge. Post-flop, the meaning of a bet changes with context. A large continuation bet on a dry board, such as King 7-2 Rainbow, can be suspicious. There is little for an opponent to protect against. A smaller bet in that same spot might show confidence. On a coordinated board like Jack 10-9, a large bet could make sense to charge draws. Every situation is different, but logic always applies. Weak players often bet amounts that reflect emotion rather than reasoning. They bet small when scared and large when excited. For example, a player holding top pair might overbet the pot to protect against imagined draws. Another might check or bet small because they are afraid of being raised. These emotional patterns become consistent over time. Once you recognize them, you can respond accordingly. Some experienced players use deceptive bet sizing. They may bet small with strong hands to lure calls, or large with weak ones to represent power. The trick is to watch for consistency. A single hand may mislead you, but repeated behavior tells the truth. Over a few orbits, you will notice who sizes rationally and who does not. Stack size also influences how players bet. A short stack with 15 big blinds who bets half their chips is rarely bluffing. They are pot committed and likely strong. The deep stack player who makes a small probe bet on the turn is often searching for information. Understanding what their bet means relative to their total stack helps you decide how to react. Position affects sizing too. Bets from late position tend to be smaller and more frequent because they rely on fold equity and position advantage. Bets from early position usually represent stronger hands. Combine these signals with your own position to choose when to call, raise, or fold. Your own bet sizing should also tell a clear and consistent story. When your sizes are balanced, opponents cannot easily read your intentions. Bet similar amounts with your bluffs and your value hands. This keeps your range hidden and makes your strong hands more profitable. Avoid automatic reactions. Just because an opponent bets big does not mean you should fold. Ask yourself whether the story makes sense. If the board texture does not support a big hand, or if you have seen them bluff in similar spots, consider standing your ground. Conversely, do not call small bets just because they look cheap. Many small bets trap players who cannot resist the price. Reading bet sizing is a skill built through repetition. You must watch hands closely, even when you are not involved. Showdowns reveal which bets meant what. Over time, your brain learns to spot small differences that others miss. What once felt like guessing becomes instinct. In tournaments, chips are tools of communication. Every bet says something, even the smallest one. The quiet players who listen to those signals make better folds, sharper calls, and more profitable raises. By paying attention to bet sizing, you move beyond the surface of the cards and start hearing the rhythm of the game itself. Chapter 10: Recognizing Table Image. Every poker table is a mirror. How you play shapes what others believe about you. That belief, your table image, is one of the most valuable tools you have in a tournament. When you understand how others see you, you can use it to your advantage, guiding their reactions and setting traps with purpose. Your table image begins forming from the first hand you play. If you sit quietly and fold for several orbits, players will start to label you as tight. If you raise frequently, they will call you aggressive. Neither image is right or wrong on its own. What matters is knowing what that image is and adjusting your actions around it. A tight image can earn respect. When you have shown few hands and suddenly raise from late position, opponents are more likely to fold. They assume you are strong. This is a perfect time to steal blinds or make well-timed bluffs. The downside of a tight image is that you may struggle to get paid when you finally pick up a premium hand. Opponents will believe you and stay out of your way. An aggressive image has the opposite effect. You get more calls because players want to catch you bluffing. This can be frustrating at times, but also profitable. When your big hands finally come, those same players will pay you off. The key is balance. Too much aggression without reason leads to leaks. Too little aggression turns you into an easy target. Pay attention to how your table changes as players come and go. New opponents have not seen your past hands. They base their opinions on your most recent actions. You can reset your image just by switching tables or tightening up for a few orbits. Image is fluid, not permanent. Body language and timing contribute to how people perceive you. Consistent, calm motions build confidence. Sudden changes in behavior raise suspicion. Even online, your timing matters. Fast bets suggest decisiveness. Long pauses can appear uncertain. Stay consistent to avoid giving away clues you do not intend to share. You should also consider how your image interacts with specific opponents. Some players respect tight players too much. Against them, widen your range and apply pressure. Others refuse to believe anyone and call too often. Against them, tighten up and value bet relentlessly. Adapting your strategy to each opponent's perception is a quiet form of control. Your table image affects more than just hands. It shapes the overall tone of your session. A calm, friendly presence keeps others relaxed, while an overly serious one can make them defensive. Being approachable can sometimes get you more action, because people feel comfortable playing pots with you. Use social dynamics wisely, especially in live tournaments. Remember that image is built through patterns, not moments. One hand rarely changes how you are viewed. A steady rhythm of actions does. If you play tight for hours, one light bluff will not erase that reputation. Likewise, one big hand will not suddenly make you seem fearless. Consistency forms perception, and perception drives how others play against you. In deep stages of a tournament, table image becomes even more powerful. Players are tired, blinds are high, and decisions are harder. A single raise from a player with a tight image can make entire tables fold. That respect is earned through many small choices earlier in the event. The best players manage their image deliberately. They know when to appear solid and when to appear unpredictable. They understand that poker is not only about cards, but about stories. Every action contributes to the story others tell themselves about you. By knowing that story, you can decide how it ends. Recognizing your table image is not about ego. It is about awareness. When you know how you are seen, You control the flow of reactions around you. You turn perception into power and use it quietly, hand after hand, until the table begins to play your game instead of theirs. Chapter 11. Bluffing with Purpose. Bluffing is one of the most misunderstood parts of poker. Many players see it as wild and risky, but real bluffing is built on logic and planning. A good bluff tells a story that makes sense. It fits the situation and pressures your opponent to fold because they believe that story. The first rule of bluffing is to have a reason. Do not bluff just because you are bored or missed the flop. Every bluff should target a specific type of player, a specific situation, or a specific weakness. Ask yourself what hand you are representing and why your opponent should believe it. If the story does not make sense, the bluff will not work. Start by thinking about board texture. Good bluffs happen on boards that fit your perceived range. For example, if you raise before the flop and the flop comes ace-king 3, that board favors you, not the caller. A continuation bet here often works because it matches your story of having a strong ace or king. On a board like 7-8-9, however, the caller's range is stronger. Bluffing in that spot makes less sense, unless you have a clear read. Position makes bluffs more effective. Acting last gives you the ability to see your opponent's reactions before making your move. When they check or hesitate, you can represent confidence with a bet. If they bet quickly or strongly, bluffing loses value. Late position gives you control, and control gives you credibility. Table image also matters. If you have been tight and quiet, your bluffs carry more weight. Opponents will assume you have something when you suddenly show aggression. If you have been active or caught bluffing recently, your credibility drops. In those cases, wait for real hands to rebuild trust before trying again. Stack size determines how much risk you can take. When short-stacked, bluffing should be rare, because losing a single hand can end your tournament. When deep, you can choose spots that apply pressure without putting all your chips at risk. Small, well-timed bluffs can still win meaningful pots and help maintain your stack. The best bluffs use blockers and backdoors. A blocker is a card in your hand that makes it less likely your opponent holds certain strong hands. For example, holding the ace of hearts on a board with 2 hearts reduces the chance your opponent has a flush draw. Backdoor draws, such as potential straights or flushes, give you extra ways to win if your bluff is called. Combining these factors turns random aggression into structured strategy. Never bluff players who do not fold. Some call everything out of curiosity or pride. Save your chips and wait for value against them. Bluff those who think too much or care about being right. They will fold when your story looks convincing. Plan your bluff before it begins. Decide how many streets you are willing to fire. Sometimes a single bet on the flop is enough. Other times, you need to follow through on the turn and river to make your story complete. Halfway bluffs are dangerous. When you start, be prepared to finish if conditions allow. Timing is key. Bluffs work best in moments of pressure. Near the bubble, when players fear elimination, even medium-strength hands fold easily. In late stages, when payouts increase, players protect their stacks more tightly. Calm, well-placed bluffs during these times steal valuable chips. Remember that bluffing is a tool, not a lifestyle. It supports your overall strategy by keeping opponents uncertain. A balanced player mixes bluffs with value bets in the same spots. That balance makes both stronger. Over time, opponents will not know when you have it and when you do not. A good bluff feels quiet and confident. You are not hoping, you are executing a plan. Win or lose, the decision was correct if it was based on logic. Poker rewards the player who makes consistent, reasoned moves over the long run. Bluff with purpose, and you will find that your calm confidence alone can make others fold without a word. Chapter 12. Continuation betting, wisely. Continuation betting, or c-betting, is one of the most common actions in poker. It means betting the flop after you raised, before the flop. Many players do it automatically, but the best tournament players do it with purpose. A well-timed c-bet wins small pots and builds value. A careless one burns chips. The first step is to understand why c-bets work. When you raise before the flop, you represent strength. Most of the time, your opponent will miss the flop completely. By betting, you continue the story that you started pre-flop. If your opponent has nothing, they often fold, and you take the pot without needing to improve. However, not every flop is worth betting. Good players choose spots where the texture fits their range. On dry flops like Ace-7-2 or King-8-3, you can bet more often because it is believable that you connected. On coordinated boards like 9-10 Jack or 7-8-9, your opponent's range hits more often. In those spots, c-betting too much becomes dangerous. The number of players in the pot also matters. A continuation bet works best heads up. Against two or more opponents, someone usually has a piece of the board. If you raised and got several callers, slow down and look for better opportunities. Saving chips is as valuable as winning them. Bet sizing is a key detail. You do not need to bet large to be effective. Small bets between 1/3 and 1/2 of the pot often get the job done. They apply pressure without risking too many chips. When you have a real hand, keeping your bet sizes consistent makes your range harder to read. Balance prevents observant players from spotting patterns. Think about position before you act. In position, your continuation bets carry more strength because you act after your opponent. You can see whether they check quickly, hesitate, or seem uninterested. Out of position, your bet gives away more information and puts you at risk of being raised. Choose your say bets carefully when acting first. One of the best times to skip a continuation bet is when the board completely misses your range. For example, if you raised pre-flop with Ace-King and the flop comes 6-7-8 of mixed suits, this board connects better with your opponent's calling hands. Checking and giving up is fine. It protects your stack and shows discipline. Pay attention to how your opponents react to your key bets over time. Some fold too often, making them easy targets. Others call everything, waiting to trap. Adjust your frequency based on what you learn. Against folders, bet more. Against callers, tighten up and value bet, strong hands. You can also mix in delayed continuation bets. This means checking the flop and betting on the turn instead. It works well when the flop is dangerous, but the turn changes the board in your favor. For example, if you raised with Ace-Queen and the flop is 10-7-4, checking once is fine. If a king appears on the turn, you can now represent that card with confidence. A continuation bet should always have a plan. Ask yourself what you will do if your opponent calls or raises. If you have no plan beyond the flop, the bet might not be worth making. A clear plan turns a random stab into a structured move. Emotion often ruins good betting habits. Players get frustrated after missing several flops and start firing automatically. Remember that patience earns more than panic. Betting less often, but with better logic, keeps your stack steady. In tournaments, continuation betting wisely lets you control the pace of play without unnecessary risk. Each successful bet adds small but steady growth to your stack. Over time, those small wins create real results. When you bet only where the story makes sense, your opponents will fold more often, and your stack will rise quietly and consistently. Chapter 13. Handling Short Stacks. Every tournament player faces the short stack at some point. The blinds rise, the antes grow, and suddenly your stack feels small compared to the table. Playing short does not mean you are finished. It means your strategy must tighten, your focus must sharpen, and every decision must count. A short stack is usually defined as having 20 or fewer big blinds. At this depth, there is little room for post-flop play. Most of your decisions revolve around when to push all in and when to fold. Understanding push and fold strategy is the key to surviving this phase. The first rule is to accept reality. You no longer have the luxury of waiting for perfect cards. You need to look for moments where the risk is reasonable and the reward is meaningful. Letting your stack fall too low takes away fold equity. Once you have fewer than 10 big blinds, opponents will call your shoves more often. Acting earlier, while you still have pressure, gives you a better chance to win uncontested pots. Position becomes more important than ever. From early position, your shoving range must be strong. You need hands like pairs, ace-king, or ace-queen. From the button or small blind, you can widen your range to include suited connectors, smaller pairs, or even weak aces. The fewer players left to act, the more hands you can profitably shove. Pay attention to stack sizes around you. If the players in the blinds are tight or short themselves, your shove is more likely to get through. If they are loose and willing to gamble, tighten your range. Always consider who you are up against before making your move. Avoid limping or making small raises when short. Every chip is valuable, and small bets commit you without giving full pressure. When you enter a pot, commit fully. All-in decisions maximize your fold equity and prevent opponents from pushing you off later streets. Short stack play requires emotional control. It is easy to feel desperate and force bad spots. Take your time. Look for clean situations rather than chasing marginal ones. Remember that one double up can completely change your position in the tournament. The goal is not to win every hand. The goal is to survive long enough for new opportunities to appear. Use the blinds and antes to your advantage. When the table folds to you in late position, those chips already in the pot are free money. A well-timed shove can pick them up and keep you afloat. You do not always need a strong hand to steal when conditions are right. Over the course of a tournament, these small pickups add up. When you have a very short stack between 5 and 10 big blinds, focus on first-in spots. Being the first to move all in gives you fold equity. Calling all-ins with that depth is usually a mistake, unless you have a premium hand. Let others take the risk of elimination first. As the blinds rise, stay aware of pay jumps and bubble pressure. Many players tighten up near the bubble, hoping to squeak into the money. This creates perfect moments for brave short stacks to steal. When others play scared, courage backed by logic becomes a weapon. Even with a small stack, body language and timing matter. Move with calm purpose. Do not show panic. Opponents sense fear, and it makes them call lighter. A steady rhythm shows confidence and can make your all-ins look stronger. When you finally double up, resist the urge to celebrate with wild play. You are not safe yet. Return to solid decisions and rebuild carefully. One win gives you breathing room, not freedom to gamble. Short stack poker teaches discipline better than any other phase. It strips the game to its essence: courage, patience, and timing. Handle it well, and you will discover that survival under pressure can be just as satisfying as winning a massive pot. Every tournament run has moments of struggle. The player who stays calm through the short stack phase earns the chance to fight again. Chapter 14: Exploiting Tight Players. Tight players are common in tournament poker. They fold often, avoid big risks, and wait for strong cards. This style keeps them safe, but it also makes them predictable. When you learn how to exploit that predictability, you gain steady chips without unnecessary danger. The first step is to identify them. Tight players usually play few hands and enter pots with deliberate timing. They fold their blinds often and rarely defend without good cards. They hesitate before calling and bet only when confident. Once you spot this behavior, you can start applying pressure in the right moments. The simplest way to exploit tight players is through blind stealing. When action folds to you in late position, and the blinds belong to cautious players, raise with a wide range. Even average hands like Jack-9 suited or King-5 suited can be profitable in these spots. Tight players will fold most of their holdings, allowing you to collect chips risk-free. Over time, these small steals add up. Continuation betting works especially well against them. If a tight player calls your pre-flop raise, they will often fold to a flop bet unless they connect solidly. Keep your c-bets small and frequent when you sense hesitation. However, stop bluffing once they show resistance. A raise or slow call from a tight player usually means strength. Respect it and move on. Position is your greatest ally. Act frequently when you have position on tight players. Their predictability makes it easy to control pot size and tempo. You can bet when they check and take free cards when they show interest. Out of position, you lose that control, so focus your aggression where it matters most. Table image also plays a role. If you have built a reputation for tight and patient play, your raises will look even stronger to tight opponents. They will fold even more. This gives you freedom to expand your range without getting caught. Use your calm image as a weapon. When tight players do enter a pot, proceed carefully. They usually have solid hands and will not back down easily. Avoid bluffing them on multiple streets unless the board heavily favors your range. Instead, look for situations where you can value bet thinly. Because they fold so often, tight players rarely trap. When they call or raise, they almost always mean it. Pay attention to the bubble and payout stages. Tight players often lock up near these moments, hoping to outlast others. This is when you can raise their blinds or re-raise their weak opens with confidence. Fear of elimination makes them even more conservative. Quiet pressure at the right time wins chips they will not fight for. Avoid trying to humiliate or break tight players. They are not your enemies. They are opportunities for steady profit. Stay polite and calm. Their style is built on fear of losing, not on challenge or ego. By remaining relaxed, you encourage them to keep folding rather than forcing them into emotional calls. One of the most profitable ways to exploit tight players is through timing. Watch for hands right after they fold a big pot or show down a strong hand. They often tighten even more afterward, waiting for the perfect spot. Use that hesitation to raise and collect small pots. Then, when they finally fight back, step aside, unless you are sure you are ahead. In tournaments, small advantages become big results over time. Tight players give you those advantages again and again. Stealing blinds, making light continuation bets, and using position carefully can build your stack without high risk. While they wait for the perfect hand, you will be quietly collecting chips. Exploiting tight players is not about aggression alone. It is about rhythm and patience. Apply pressure in waves, always staying aware of when to stop. When done correctly, you can gain control of the table and move steadily toward the later stages of the tournament, leaving the cautious players behind in their own hesitation. Chapter 15. Managing Tilt and Emotion. Poker is not only a game of skill, it is a game of emotion. Every player, no matter how experienced, feels frustration, disappointment, and even anger at times. Learning to manage those emotions is one of the most important skills in tournament poker. The cards are random, but your response never has to be. Tilt is what happens when emotion starts guiding your decisions instead of logic. It can appear after a bad beat, a string of losses, or even a long stretch of boredom. Some players tilt loudly, showing their frustration. Others tilt quietly, losing focus and drifting into careless play. Both kinds are dangerous because they destroy discipline. The first step in managing tilt is awareness. You must recognize when emotion starts to take control. Maybe you feel your heart rate rise, or your hands tighten. Maybe you begin replaying a lost hand in your mind, trying to justify it. Those are the signs. When you notice them, pause. Take a deep breath. Reset before you act again. Never chase losses. The urge to win it back is the root of most tournament downfalls. Once chips are gone, they are gone. Trying to recover them too quickly usually leads to bigger mistakes. The best players protect their stack by accepting each hand as its own event. The past hand is over. The next hand begins fresh. If you take a bad beat, remind yourself that poker is built on probabilities, not guarantees. Even the best hands lose sometimes. You made the right decision if your play had positive expectation. Let logic comfort you where luck cannot. The long-term player always wins over emotion. Taking short breaks helps. Use tournament pauses to step away, breathe and relax your mind. A few minutes away from the table can restore balance. If you are playing online, stand up, stretch, or get some fresh air. Do anything that resets your thinking before you sit back down. Good nutrition and hydration matter too. Physical fatigue leads to emotional fatigue. Tournaments are long, and when your energy dips, your patience often disappears with it. Keep water nearby, eat light, and avoid too much caffeine or sugar. A calm body helps create a calm mind. Do not compare yourself to others. Every tournament has players who seem luckier, who win flips or catch cards at the perfect time. Comparing yourself to them drains your focus. Stay centered on your own table, your own decisions, and your own progress. Comparison is a distraction, not a strategy. When you feel tilt rising, narrow your game. Tighten your range for a few orbits and return to basic fundamentals. Play only strong hands and avoid fancy moves. Simplicity brings stability. Each calm, correct decision helps rebuild your confidence and clears the emotional fog. Poker is also about acceptance. You cannot control the deck or your opponent's luck. You can only control your choices and your reactions. Accept variance as part of the game's design. Every bad run balances out over time if you continue making sound decisions. If you ever feel overwhelmed, it is okay to fold more and slow down. Let the table move while you regain control. Great players know when to pause, just like they know when to attack. Staying calm protects your chips as much as your mind. Managing tilt is not about avoiding emotion. It is about understanding it. Feel it, acknowledge it, and then let it pass. The quiet player who maintains composure while others lose control often climbs the leaderboard without doing anything flashy. In the end, poker rewards clarity. The calm player sees details others miss. They fold correctly, call with confidence, and never hand chips away in frustration. Mastering emotion is mastering yourself, and in a tournament, that control is your greatest weapon. Chapter 16: Maintaining Focus in Long Sessions. Tournament poker can last for hours, sometimes even an entire day. Maintaining focus through that length of time is one of the hardest parts of the game. A single moment of distraction can undo hours of good play. Staying sharp and calm is what allows you to make the right choices deep into the event. The first step is to accept that your energy will change. You will have stretches where you feel alert and in rhythm, and others where your thoughts drift. This is normal. The goal is not to feel perfect all the time. The goal is to manage your attention so that your decision quality stays steady. Start by building routines. Before the tournament begins, create small habits that tell your mind it is time to focus. This might mean checking your stack, reviewing the blind level, or taking a deep breath before the first hand. Simple rituals anchor your awareness and make your brain ready for consistent play. During the game, pay attention to your body. Long sessions can wear you down physically, and tiredness leads to poor judgment. Keep water nearby and sip it often. Light snacks such as nuts or fruit help maintain steady energy without the crash that comes from sugar or heavy food. If breaks are available, take them seriously. Step outside, stretch or walk for a minute. Movement resets your focus better than scrolling your phone or talking about bad beats. Focus also comes from managing what you allow into your mind. Avoid gossip at the table or worrying about what others are doing. These distractions pull energy away from your own decisions. Listen quietly, observe the action, and save conversation for when you are not in a hand. The less noise in your head, the clearer your decisions become. In long sessions, your emotions will naturally rise and fall. There will be moments when you feel impatient or frustrated. When that happens, slow down. Take a deep breath before acting. Remind yourself that tournaments reward calm, steady play. One good fold can be more valuable than a dozen wild bluffs. Another key part of focus is managing boredom. Long periods without strong hands can tempt you into playing just to feel involved. This is how many players bleed chips. Accept that poker is made of waiting. Patience is part of the game. Use quiet stretches to study other players, instead of looking for excuses to act. Every observation you make now becomes an advantage later. If your mind starts to drift, bring it back with small checks. Ask yourself, how many big blinds do I have? Who at the table is short-stacked? Who has been raising often? Simple questions pull your attention into the present and keep you grounded in the strategy of the game. Good posture helps more than people realize. Sitting upright, with both feet on the ground, signals your brain that it is time to work. Slouching or leaning too far back can lead to fatigue. Your body and mind reflect each other, and discipline in one helps the other stay balanced. Avoid letting results control your mood. You will win some pots and lose others. Focus on the process, not the outcome. When your attention stays on decision quality, rather than luck, you maintain calm even through swings. The best tournament players often appear emotionless, not because they do not care, but because they refuse to waste energy on what they cannot change. Finally, remind yourself why you play. Every tournament is a test of endurance and patience. The ability to stay focused when others fade is what separates consistent players from the rest. As others grow tired, you stay alert. As others lose discipline, you remain steady. Focus in long sessions is not about intensity. It is about rhythm. You do not need to be at full alert every minute. You simply need to be present when decisions matter most. By managing your energy, staying patient, and keeping your thoughts quiet, you will still be sharp long after others have drifted away. Chapter 17. Pay attention to position shifts. Poker tables never stay the same for long. Players bust, tables break, and new opponents take their seats. Every change shifts your position and your advantage. Paying attention to these position shifts is one of the most overlooked skills in tournament poker. The players who notice them adjust quietly and stay ahead of the field. At the start of a tournament, you might have certain players on your left and others on your right. Over time, that balance changes. When aggressive players move to your left, they can re-raise your opens and steal your pots. When tight players sit on your left, your opens become more profitable. A single seat change can completely alter your strategy. Every orbit, take a moment to reassess your position. Ask yourself who acts after you and who acts before you. Think about how that dynamic affects your decisions. If you now have a strong player on your left, tighten your opening range. If you have a weak or passive player there instead, you can open wider and take more control of the table. When new players join, watch their first few hands closely. Do they raise often, or do they sit quietly? Do they defend their blinds, or let them go? The faster you read their style, the faster you can adjust. Many players take several orbits to notice how the table has changed. You can gain a small but steady edge simply by paying attention sooner. Position shifts also change blind pressure. When the blinds increase, players who were once comfortable suddenly find themselves short. If those players are now on your left, you can exploit their need to preserve chips. They will fold more often, giving you opportunities to steal. Conversely, if short stacks move to your right, they may shove into you. Adjust your opening sizes and calling ranges to account for that risk. Even in small table movements, seat draws create new stories. If a loud or emotional player sits beside you, the table atmosphere changes. If a calm, silent player moves in, it may slow the pace. These subtle changes influence your rhythm. Stay adaptable. Poker rewards players who remain flexible rather than those who expect the table to stay constant. As the tournament progresses, tables often merge. When that happens, you might move from a calm table to a wild one. Do not carry your old image or habits into the new environment without checking first. The new table has its own hierarchy and energy. Take a few hands to observe before resuming your usual strategy. Position shifts also affect information. When observant players sit near you, they watch your actions more closely. When distracted players are nearby, you can play more freely. Knowing who is paying attention to you helps control your image. If a strong player on your left is studying you, vary your bet sizes and avoid being predictable. In live poker, dealers also change frequently. Each new dealer alters the rhythm of hands. Some move faster, others slower. Use these natural breaks to recenter your awareness. Look at your chip count, your position, and the stacks around you. Each rotation is a reminder to stay engaged. When you play online, the same principles apply. The digital seat numbers may change, but the idea remains. Position defines opportunity. Always know where the aggressors and tight players sit in relation to you. Keep mental notes, even if the game feels fast. Tournament poker is a moving landscape. Players who cling to static habits get left behind. Those who stay alert to shifting positions keep their balance as the structure changes. Each seat draw, each elimination, and each new player adds fresh dynamics to your decisions. By paying attention to these small movements, you see what others ignore. You notice when opportunities open and when danger grows. Staying aware of your position and the players around you keeps you grounded in the present moment. In a game built on timing and awareness, that focus turns quiet observation into lasting success. Chapter 18: Using Table Talk and Timing. Poker is more than cards and chips. It is a conversation that happens without words, and sometimes with them. Table talk and timing tell stories about confidence, hesitation, and intent. Learning to read those signals and control your own can give you subtle but powerful advantages in tournament play. In live poker, every player reveals small pieces of information through speech and body language. Some talk to disguise nerves, others to project strength. Listen carefully, not for the words themselves, but for the tone and rhythm. A calm voice often signals comfort. A shaky or forced tone can mean uncertainty. Many players try to sound casual when they are nervous. With time, you will learn to hear the difference. Table talk is not always about reading others. Sometimes it is about shaping what they think of you. A few well-timed comments can create a friendly image or distract an opponent at the right moment. Small talk between hands can make you seem relaxed and approachable. That helps you get paid later when you finally have a big hand. Just remember that excessive talking can draw attention you may not want. Use words like any other tool, selectively, and with purpose. Silence can also be a weapon. A quiet player who suddenly starts chatting may be trying to appear comfortable while bluffing. Conversely, someone who goes silent might be focused on a real hand. There is no single rule, but consistency matters. Look for changes in behavior, rather than the behavior itself. Timing tells even more than talk. The speed at which someone acts often reflects their comfort with the decision. Instant bets or calls usually come from players who have already decided before the action reached them. Long pauses often signal uncertainty, but they can also be traps. Pay attention to how each person normally plays. A quick shove from one player might mean strength, while from another it could mean panic. Your own timing should remain consistent. Try to take the same amount of time for similar decisions. This prevents opponents from detecting patterns. Avoid acting instantly when you have strong hands, and pausing only when unsure. Balanced timing protects your range and keeps you unreadable. Use timing to gather information even when you are not in a hand. Notice how long players take before betting certain amounts. Do they hesitate before bluffing? Do they bet quickly when they hit top pair? Every pattern you record builds a map of the table. When the pressure rises later, you can rely on those small details to make confident reads. Table talk and timing can also be used to slow the game down. In moments of stress or tilt, talking softly or counting chips carefully helps you regain control. You do not need to rush. The pace of your movements affects your emotions. Calm, measured actions create calm thoughts. Online players can use timing tells too, though they appear differently. Delayed actions may indicate indecision or multitasking. Instant calls often reveal weaker hands or draws. Many experienced players vary their timing on purpose, but patterns still appear over time. Stay observant and look for consistency rather than single moments. Be careful not to rely too heavily on table talk or timing. They are clues, not proof. Use them as part of a larger picture that includes position, bet sizing, and board texture. The best players never act on one piece of information alone. They collect several and then choose the most logical conclusion. Finally, remember that poker etiquette matters. Table talk should never cross into distraction or disrespect. Keep your interactions light and positive. You want to observe, not disrupt. Friendly composure makes others comfortable, which makes their tells easier to read. Poker is communication wrapped in silence and rhythm. Words, pauses, and gestures all carry meaning if you pay attention. By staying calm and observant, you can hear what others do not say and hide what you do not want revealed. In tournament play, that awareness turns the simple passage of time into a steady, quiet edge. Chapter 19. Playing from the blinds. Playing from the blinds is one of the hardest parts of poker. You are forced to put chips in the pot without seeing your cards, and you act out of position for the rest of the hand. Over the course of a tournament, the blinds eat away at your stack if you do not manage them carefully. The goal is to defend smartly, not stubbornly. Every time the action folds to you in the blinds, you are already invested. This can make it tempting to call too often. Many players tell themselves, "I already have chips in, I might as well see a flop." That thought is costly. Calling with weak hands out of position often leads to tough post-flop spots that drain chips. Protecting your blinds does not mean defending them blindly. Start by considering who is raising. Against tight players who open rarely, you should defend less. Their range is strong, and calling with weak hands will put you in trouble. Against aggressive players who raise often, you can defend more, especially from the big blind where you have the best pot odds. The key is balance. Defend with hands that have real potential to improve, while folding the rest. Position works against you here. When you act first after the flop, you give your opponent control of the pot. To handle this, plan ahead. If you defend with hands like suited connectors or small pairs, know what flops you want to see and what your next step will be. When you miss completely, fold quickly and save your stack. Use the small blind carefully. It is one of the most difficult seats at the table. You act first before the flop, and again after the flop, in almost every hand. Choose your battles wisely. Calling from the small blind should be rare, unless you are confident the big blind will fold, and you can play heads up. Otherwise, small blind calls often create multi-way pots, where you are trapped in the worst position. From the big blind, your decisions depend heavily on pot odds. You have already put in one big blind, which means calling often costs less than usual. This allows you to see more flops, but do so with purpose. Defend suited connectors, broadways, and hands that can make top pair or strong draws. Avoid weak offsuit hands that play poorly after the flop. After defending, stay alert to the board texture. Many players continuation bet automatically, especially in position. You can use this to your advantage. On dry flops that likely miss their range, consider check raising with hands that have good potential, or as a bluff occasionally. However, do not overuse this move. The goal is to make your opponent think twice before carpeting you in the future. Short stacks in the blinds face special challenges. When you have fewer than 20 big blinds, you often must decide between folding or going all in. Flat calling becomes less effective because you cannot play multiple streets. Study common push and fold ranges for blind defense. Knowing when to shove over a late position raise is one of the most valuable tournament skills you can develop. Be careful about defending too wide in the late stages. As blinds grow larger, each mistake costs more. Focus on defending hands that can flop well, and let go of marginal ones. It is better to fold and stay alive than to call and get trapped in a hopeless situation. Occasionally, you should mix in re-raises from the blinds. When aggressive players attack too often, a well-timed 3-bet can earn respect and stop them from stealing repeatedly. Choose strong hands, or suited aces, that have equity if called. Keep your sizes consistent, so your re-raises look credible. In tournaments, survival often depends on how well you handle the blinds. You cannot avoid them, but you can manage them. Defend with discipline, fold when outmatched, and push back only when the situation favors you. Each careful choice in the blinds saves chips and extends your time in the event. Over many hours of play, small decisions from the blinds add up to large results. The players who master these spots do not bleed chips between big hands. They stay balanced, patient, and aware. That quiet discipline, hand after hand, is what carries them deeper into the tournament, while others slowly fade away. Chapter 20. Recognizing stack depth at all times. Stack depth is one of the most important details in tournament poker. It determines how you play every hand, how you size your bets, and how much pressure you can apply or withstand. Players who stay aware of their stack depth make better decisions. Players who ignore it often find themselves trapped in situations they did not plan for. Stack depth is measured in big blinds, not in total chips. The value of your chips changes every level as the blinds increase. A stack of 20,000 chips might be healthy at one level and short just 2 levels later. Always think in big blinds, so you can compare your position to the current structure and to the other stacks at your table. There are 3 main stack zones in most tournaments: deep, medium, and short. Each one requires a different approach. When you are deep stacked with over 60 big blinds, you have room to see flops, set traps, and use small ball strategies. You can play more speculative hands like suited connectors and small pairs, because there is space for post-flop maneuvering. Deep stacks reward patience and position. Focus on extracting value and avoiding big confrontations without clear information, When you are medium stacked, around 20 to 50 big blinds, your decisions tighten. You have enough chips to play, but not enough to recover from big mistakes. Focus on controlled aggression. Choose good spots to raise and 3-back. Avoid marginal calls out of position. Pot control and timing become essential. Your stack is healthy but not safe. When you are short stacked, under 20 big blinds, the game simplifies. You are in push and fold territory. Your choices revolve around finding the right moments to move all in. Position and fold equity become your best friends. Survival outweighs creativity. You should also pay attention to effective stack size. This means the smallest stack involved in the hand. For example, if you have 50 big blinds but your opponent has 15, your real decision space is only 15. You cannot win more than they have. This awareness helps you plan your bet sizes and prevents overcommitting in situations where you cannot win enough to justify the risk. Stack depth affects bet sizing. Deep stacks require smaller bets relative to the pot, because there are multiple streets of play ahead. Shorter stacks benefit from larger bets that commit the action earlier. Matching your bet size to the stack depth keeps your line consistent and believable. Recognizing stack depth also helps you predict your opponent's behavior. Short stacks will often shove instead of calling raises. Medium stacks will protect their chips and avoid marginal situations. Big stacks might use their power to bully the table. Adjusting your play around these tendencies creates edges that have nothing to do with the cards. During every orbit, glance at the tournament clock. Know the blind level and how much time remains before it increases. Plan ahead. You do not want to be surprised when your stack suddenly feels half as deep after a blind jump. Thinking one level ahead allows you to prepare mentally and strategically for what comes next. Stack awareness also helps control emotion. When you know exactly where you stand, panic fades. You stop reacting to the pressure of chips and start making calm, logical decisions. Many players lose control because they do not realize how short they have become until it is too late. Awareness keeps you grounded and ready. Your tournament life is measured in blinds, not minutes. Every decision you make should reflect your current stack size. Deep stacks are about patience. Medium stacks are about balance. Short stacks are about courage. Knowing which one you are in at all times keeps you playing with intention instead of impulse. In the end, stack depth is not just a number. It is a roadmap for every hand you play. The more you stay aware of it, the smoother your path through a tournament becomes. When others drift between levels without adjusting, you will remain in control, calm, deliberate, and always one step ahead. Chapter 21. Adjusting to online versus live play. Poker is the same game in both online and live settings, but the experience is completely different. The pace, the atmosphere, and the available information all change. Tournament players who can adjust between these environments develop a deeper understanding of how to make good decisions anywhere they play. Online poker moves fast. Hands are dealt in seconds, and you may play hundreds in a single session. This speed requires focus and discipline. There is no time for long reflection, so your thought process must be organized and efficient. Keep your decisions simple and consistent. Know your ranges before you start, and stick to them. Because online play is so quick, tilt can build faster. A few lost pots in a short span can feel overwhelming. The solution is to take regular breaks. Step away for a few minutes between levels. Use that time to clear your mind. Online players who never pause often burn out and make mistakes without realizing it. Reading opponents online requires attention to patterns rather than physical tells. Focus on timing, bet sizing, and frequency. If a player always bets the same amount when bluffing or acts instantly with strong hands, take note. Many online players are predictable in rhythm, even if they try not to be. Keep written notes if the platform allows it. These small details add up. In live poker, the pace slows down. Each hand takes longer, and the atmosphere carries more emotion. You can see faces, hear voices, and sense tension. This slower pace allows deeper thinking, but it also tempts players into impatience. Embrace the calm. Use the extra time to observe. Watch how players handle chips, how they look at their cards, and how they breathe after the flop. Live poker rewards patience and presence. The biggest advantage of live play is access to human information. People reveal themselves through movement, speech, and tone. Some players talk too much when they are nervous. Others become very still when bluffing. You do not need to act on every tell, but each observation gives you another piece of the puzzle. Online players transitioning to live games must also manage social pressure. It feels different to face opponents in person. People react to the physical environment, the noise, the lights, the crowd. Stay grounded. Treat every hand like data, not drama. Confidence in your process removes the fear of being watched. For live players entering online tournaments, adjustment means embracing focus and speed. There are no faces to read, so rely on math, logic, and consistency. Develop strong pre-flop ranges and disciplined bet sizes. The players who succeed online make decisions quickly because they know their plan before the action starts. Stack management changes slightly between formats. Online tournaments usually have shorter levels and faster blind increases. Live events give more room to breathe but also demand more endurance. Keep track of your pace. In online poker, you must move faster but avoid rushing. In live poker, you must stay patient without losing energy. Bankroll and mindset also differ. Online play allows for many entries and quick restarts. Live tournaments often cost more time and emotion. The weight of a single live entry can affect decision-making. Recognize that pressure and stay calm. You cannot control luck, only your preparation. One habit that helps both environments is reviewing your hands afterward. Online platforms often let you track your history automatically. In live play, take short notes between breaks. Reflecting later sharpens your understanding of both styles and keeps your strategy balanced. The key to mastering both formats is adaptability. Do not treat online and live poker as separate games. Treat them as different languages that share the same meaning. Online play trains your speed and logic. Live play trains your patience and awareness. Together, they build a complete player. When you can stay calm through the quick rhythm of online poker and the slow intensity of live tournaments, you have found true balance. The cards change, the pace changes, but your mindset remains the same, quiet, steady, and ready for whatever the next hand brings. Chapter 22: ICM and Payout Awareness. As a poker tournament moves closer to the money, every chip begins to carry new meaning. The independent chip model, or ICM, is a way of understanding how chip value changes as payouts approach. You do not need to be a mathematician to use it. You just need to understand the principle. Chips lost are worth more than chips won. Protecting your stack becomes more valuable than chasing small edges. In a cash game, each chip has a fixed value. You can always buy more if you lose. In a tournament, once you bust, you are done. This difference makes every chip precious. ICM helps you make decisions that respect that reality. It tells you when to avoid thin spots and when to pressure others who are trying to survive. The simplest way to think about ICM is to imagine you are near the bubble. If you have a medium or large stack, your goal is to avoid losing everything to a short stack, unless you have a clear edge. The chips you might win do not increase your chance of cashing as much as the chips you could lose decrease it. This is why good players fold strong but marginal hands in bubble situations. Short stacks, on the other hand, can use ICM pressure to their advantage. When the bubble is near, many medium stacks tighten up, afraid of missing the payout. If you are short but still have enough fold equity, you can shove and steal blinds because others will not want to risk elimination. This is how understanding ICM turns courage into a weapon. ICM awareness continues beyond the bubble. Each payout jump creates new pressure. At a final table, chips are not just chips, they represent real money, jumps between places. A single elimination can mean thousands in difference. This makes some players freeze and play defensively. Others who understand the model take advantage of that fear. To apply ICM correctly, you need to know your situation. Look at the payouts and estimate how far you are from the next jump. Identify who has you covered and who does not. When you are the shortest stack, aggression is mandatory because you have little to lose. When you are comfortably ahead, patience often earns more than risk. Do not let ICM make you overly cautious. Some players misunderstand it and fold everything near the bubble, only to blind out soon after. The point is not to avoid all confrontation. It is to choose spots wisely. When you play a hand, do it with awareness of what losing would cost. If the risk is small and the reward is large, the move is still good. Big stacks have special power under ICM pressure. They can attack players who are trapped by payout concerns. Medium stacks often fold strong hands because they cannot afford to bust before shorter ones. As a big stack, use that fear to apply pressure. Open more pots, 3-bet light, and force others into uncomfortable decisions. Just be sure not to collide with another big stack, unless you have strong holdings. As the tournament nears its end, your mindset should shift from chip accumulation to payout efficiency. Each decision should consider not only equity, but also the value of survival. Folding can sometimes be more profitable than gambling. That discipline separates patient finishers from emotional risk-takers. ICM also affects heads-up play. Once you reach the final 2 players, chip value returns to a near cash game state, because there are no more pay jumps. The pressure lifts, and you can play more freely again. Understanding when ICM pressure starts and ends helps you adjust smoothly through each phase. You can study ICM models outside of play using simple charts or calculators. Doing this builds intuition. Over time, you will not need the math. You will simply feel when risk is too heavy for the moment. ICM and Payout Awareness teach the truth about tournament poker. Winning is not always about having the most chips. It is about knowing when to protect what you have and when to strike. The best players balance caution and courage with quiet precision, climbing the ladder one careful decision at a time. Chapter 23. Heads-Up Fundamentals. Reaching heads-up play is a special moment in any poker tournament. The long grind is almost over, and every decision now carries the weight of the title. Playing heads-up requires a shift in mindset. The field is gone, the table is empty, and it is just you and one opponent. The pace quickens, the ranges widen, and every pot becomes a battle of control. The first rule of heads-up poker is aggression. With only two players, the blinds hit faster, and waiting for perfect cards is no longer possible. You must open often and pressure constantly. The player who acts first usually wins the small pots, and those small pots decide most heads-up matches. Open a wide range of hands and keep your opponent defending. At the same time, be mindful of balance. You cannot attack blindly. Mix strong hands and weak ones in your opening range, so your opponent cannot easily read you. If you raise every button, they will start to notice patterns. Vary your approach. Sometimes limp weaker hands to see a cheap flop. Other times raise to test their response. Keep them guessing. Position becomes even more valuable. When you are on the button, you act first pre-flop, but last on every other street. Use that advantage. Bet when check to, control the pot size, and apply pressure when boards favor you. Out of position, tighten your range, and rely on check raises and well-timed folds. The fewer mistakes you make out of position, the longer you stay in control. Your opponent's tendencies matter more in heads-up than anywhere else. With only one other player, you see their rhythm every hand. Watch how they react to aggression. Do they fold to continuation bets often? Do they call down light? Adjust immediately. If they fold too much, bluff more. If they call often, value bet thinner. The match becomes a constant adjustment. Hand strength changes drastically, heads up. Top pair becomes a strong hand. Any ace or king has value. Even second pair can win a large pot. The absence of other players increases your hand's relative power. This means you should not wait for premium hands. Instead, focus on ranges, position, and board texture. Stack size once again guides your plan. With deep stacks, you can take more flops and play small ball poker. With shallow stacks, every decision revolves around push or fold strategy. When both players have fewer than 20 big blinds, the game becomes about timing your all-ins. Study those ranges in advance so you can act quickly under pressure. Bluffing has a different feel, heads up. Because your opponent is in almost every hand, your bluffs must make sense within the ongoing story. Continuation bets, delayed bluffs, and river probes all have their place, but random aggression does not. Each bluff should build on a pattern that your opponent believes. Your mental state plays a huge role here. After hours of play, fatigue sets in. Concentration slips, and emotion rises. Stay calm and steady. Focus on each hand as its own event. Whether you win or lose a big pot, return to the same pace and composure. Emotional balance wins more heads-up matches than lucky flops. Pay attention to betting patterns as the match continues. Many opponents change gears when frustrated or tired. They may start over-betting bluffs or folding too much to pressure. Recognize those shifts and exploit them. The longer the match goes, the more you learn about their comfort zone. Heads-up play rewards creativity, but punishes ego. Stay humble and focused. If your opponent adjusts to your style, change rhythm immediately. Do not fight patterns, break them. Every hand is a new puzzle, and the player who adapts fastest usually takes the final pot. When the last hand comes, win or lose, remember that reaching heads up already shows skill and patience. The final duel is not just about cards. It is about endurance, courage, and focus. The player who stays calm under pressure will almost always outlast the one chasing emotion. Heads-up poker is pure. It strips away everything but timing, willpower, and clarity. When you learn to stay balanced in those final moments, you discover what real tournament composure feels like, quiet confidence that lasts long after the final hand is dealt. Chapter 24: Using Math Without Overcomplicating. Poker is a game of logic built on numbers, but that does not mean you need to be a mathematician to play well. The best players use math simply and clearly. They understand enough to guide their choices without turning every decision into a calculation. Math is not the focus, it is the foundation that keeps your play steady. Start with the basics: pot odds. Pot odds tell you whether a call makes sense based on what you can win, compared to what you must risk. For example, if the pot is 1,000 chips, and your opponent bets 500, you must call 500 to win 1,500. That means you are getting 3-to-1 on your money. If your hand will improve more than one time in 4, the call is profitable. You do not need exact percentages, only a feel for when the price is right. Next are implied odds. These account for the chips you might win later if your hand improves. For example, if you hold a flush draw, you may not have the correct immediate odds to call, but if your opponent is likely to pay you off when the flush hits, the call becomes profitable. Think about potential future winnings, not just the pot in front of you. Reverse implied odds are the opposite. They measure how much you could lose if your hand looks good, but ends up second best. Small pairs and weak top pairs often fall into this trap. When you face deep stacks and tricky opponents, be careful about calling with hands that can easily lose big pots. Another important concept is fold equity. This is the chance that your opponent will fold when you bet or raise. Every time you make an aggressive move, part of its value comes from that possibility. A semi-bluff with a draw, for example, wins both when your opponent folds and when you hit. Thinking about fold equity helps you see the full picture of each play. You should also understand your outs, which are the cards that can improve your hand. For example, if you have 4 cards to a flush, you have 9 outs left in the deck. The rule of 2 and 4 gives a quick estimate. Multiply your outs by 2 on the turn, or by 4 on the flop to estimate your chance of improving. 9 outs times 4 equals roughly 36%, a simple and effective shortcut. Pot odds, implied odds, and fold equity all connect. When you weigh them together, you get a clear sense of whether to call, bet, or fold. You do not need to memorize formulas. Just think in ranges and ratios. Poker math works best when it supports instinct, not when it replaces it. Avoid overcomplicating the game with unnecessary numbers. You do not need to calculate exact equity every hand. Focus on logic. How likely am I to improve? How strong is my opponent's range? And what is the risk if I am wrong? These questions guide decisions more reliably than chasing perfect accuracy under pressure. Tournament play adds one more layer: stack size. All math in poker changes when blinds grow. A call that is correct with deep stacks may be wrong when you are short. The fewer chips you have behind, the less value you get from implied odds. Always consider stack depth before relying on pure numbers. You can strengthen your comfort with math through simple practice. Review hands after your sessions. Estimate pot odds, equity, and fold equity. Then check your reasoning. The more you practice away from the table, the faster your instincts work during play. Over time, math becomes natural, a quiet tool that supports your decisions without slowing you down. Remember that poker math is not about proving how smart you are. It is about protecting your chips. Simple math keeps your game consistent and removes emotion from close spots. It gives you clarity when pressure rises. The best players combine calm intuition with basic math. They know the odds, but they also feel the rhythm of the game. You do not need complex equations to win tournaments. You just need enough understanding to make logical, steady decisions hand after hand. In poker, clarity always beats confusion, and math is the tool that keeps your mind clear. Chapter 25. Avoiding Fancy Play Syndrome. In poker, creativity can be powerful, but too much of it becomes a trap. Many players fall into what professionals call fancy play syndrome. It happens when you try to make every hand special or outsmart everyone at the table. Instead of playing solid, simple poker, you start making moves for style or pride. This often leads to unnecessary mistakes. The best players win through consistency, not complexity. They do not need to impress anyone. They make logical, repeatable decisions based on position, stack size, and opponent behavior. When you catch yourself planning a complicated bluff or a tricky slow play, pause and ask why. If the only reason is to look clever, it is probably the wrong move. Fancy play syndrome often appears after a winning streak. Confidence turns into overconfidence. You start thinking you can read everyone, or that you must stay unpredictable. You begin to call out of curiosity, raise in weird spots, or make large bluffs just to prove control. Each one might feel exciting, but together, they erode your stack. Solid poker does not mean boring poker. It means efficient poker. Strong decisions come from clear logic, not from trying to surprise your opponents. When your plan fits the situation, it works quietly and effectively. Fancy play, on the other hand, often ignores logic in favor of showing off. The calm player who focuses on fundamentals always wins more in the long run. Avoid slow playing too often. Many players fall into this trap with big hands. They want to appear weak and lure opponents in, but slow play only works against aggressive players who will bet for you. Against cautious players, it wastes value. Betting straightforwardly with your strong hands protects you from bad beats and builds your stack faster. Bluffing too creatively is another sign of fancy play. You might decide to bluff in a strange spot or on an odd board, hoping to confuse your opponent. But most players are not thinking that deeply. They simply react to bet size and board texture. The simpler your line, the easier it is to represent strength. Overcomplicating a bluff usually creates a story no one believes. The same goes for hero calls. Sometimes players call down with weak hands just to prove they can spot a bluff. Even when they are right, the emotional reward rarely equals the risk. Discipline is stronger than ego. Folding a hand you suspect might be best feels painful in the moment, but saves chips over time. Tournament structure also punishes fancy play. As blinds rise, chips lose flexibility. You do not have room to test theories or run wild bluffs. Each decision must have purpose. When you make simple, correct plays, you survive longer and gain more opportunities to strike when it matters. If you ever feel bored at the table, remember that poker's excitement comes from precision, not chaos. The game rewards those who stay patient, while others chase creativity for its own sake. There is beauty in clarity. A clean, logical strategy performed steadily is far more powerful than constant improvisation. One useful habit is to check your motives before big decisions. Ask yourself 3 questions. What am I trying to accomplish? What do I expect my opponent to do? What happens if I am wrong? If your answers are vague, step back. You might be slipping into fancy play without realizing it. The best professionals play simple lines that look easy on replay, but are rooted in experience. They fold when behind, bet when ahead, and pick their bluffs carefully. Their strength lies in discipline, not trickery. Avoiding fancy play syndrome keeps your mind calm. You stop chasing perfection and start valuing precision. Each hand becomes part of a steady rhythm, rather than a dramatic story. Poker is not about winning the prettiest pot. It is about staying balanced long enough to win the last one. Chapter 26. Managing Breaks and Nutrition. Poker tournaments test more than your mind. They test your body and energy. Long sessions filled with concentration can wear you down slowly. When your body tires, your decisions suffer. Managing your breaks, hydration and nutrition gives you a quiet but powerful edge over players who ignore them. Start with simple awareness. Notice how your energy changes during play. Many players begin strong and focused, but fade after a few hours. The mind slows, attention drifts, and small mistakes appear. You cannot avoid fatigue completely, but you can control how you handle it. A clear head wins more than any single strategy. Use every break wisely. Do not spend the entire time talking about hands or staring at your phone. Walk away from the table. Take a few deep breaths. Stretch your arms, neck, and legs. A short walk resets blood flow and helps you return with sharper focus. These few minutes of rest protect your stamina for the long run. Hydration is another key. Dehydration affects thinking long before you feel thirsty. Keep water nearby at all times and sip it slowly throughout play. Avoid drinking too much coffee or energy drinks. They create quick spikes of alertness, followed by crashes. Caffeine can help early, but balance it with steady hydration to prevent shaky focus later in the session. Food choices also affect performance. Heavy meals drain energy because your body shifts focus to digestion. Greasy or sugary foods might feel satisfying in the moment, but lead to fatigue. Choose light, steady fuel, fruit, nuts, or small portions of protein. These keep your blood sugar even and your mind calm. In long tournaments, slow and steady energy wins every time. Between levels, clear your thoughts. Do not replay bad beats or missed opportunities. The past cannot help you in the next hand. Use short breaks to reset emotionally. Take slow breaths and remind yourself that patience is your real advantage. The player who returns calm after a break often finds that others are still distracted by what happened before. Posture and breathing matter more than most players realize. Sitting for hours can tighten muscles and slow circulation. Keep your shoulders relaxed and your feet flat on the floor. When tension builds, exhale fully and release it. These small physical adjustments help your body stay loose and your mind alert. If the tournament allows longer dinner breaks, plan ahead. Eat something balanced but not heavy. Avoid fast food or big desserts. Choose meals that give you sustained energy rather than quick comfort. Remember, your goal is endurance, not indulgence. Sleep before tournament days is part of preparation too. No amount of strategy can replace rest. Tired players make emotional calls, miss small details, and lose awareness of stack sizes. A well-rested mind stays patient even when luck runs cold. During play, watch for signs of fatigue. If you notice you are acting faster than usual or missing simple counts, slow down. Take a deep breath before every decision. A single moment of mindfulness can prevent big mistakes. In long events, emotional energy is just as important as physical energy. Stay positive and gentle with yourself. Not every session goes perfectly. Managing frustration keeps your stamina strong. Remember that endurance is what carries you deep, not constant excitement. Tournament poker is a marathon disguised as a game. Players who treat their body with care make better choices deep into the night. Every sip of water, every small stretch, every calm breath adds to your edge. The cards will fall where they may, but your physical and mental balance decide how far you can go. Take care of yourself as carefully as you take care of your chips. A steady body creates a steady mind, and a steady mind creates winning poker. Chapter 27. Respecting every opponent. Poker is a competition, but it is also a conversation between people. Every opponent, no matter their skill level, deserves respect. When you treat each player seriously, you play with more focus and fewer emotional mistakes. Disrespect, even small moments of arrogance, leads to blind spots that cost chips over time. Respect begins with attention. Never assume someone is bad just because they make odd plays. Many great players use unconventional lines that look strange but are based on deep logic. Dismissing them too quickly keeps you from learning what they are really doing. Every opponent has a reason for their actions, even if that reason is emotional. Understanding that reason helps you adjust more accurately. Treat every pot like it matters. Do not relax just because you are facing a player you think is weaker. Overconfidence makes you sloppy. You begin to bet carelessly, call without thinking, or bluff in bad spots. Weak players can still win big hands, and they often do when others underestimate them. Stay alert and patient, no matter who sits across from you. Respect also means controlling your reactions. Never celebrate when you win a big pot, or mock someone who makes a mistake. It might feel harmless, but it creates tension and breaks your focus. Calm professionalism keeps your table presence strong. When you show kindness and restraint, you earn quiet control over the emotional flow of the game. Be mindful of your tone and body language. Avoid sighing, rolling your eyes, or showing frustration when someone calls you with a weak hand and gets lucky. Poker rewards patience over pride. The more you stay composed, the more others reveal themselves through their own emotions. Your calm becomes your advantage. Respect goes both ways. When other players see that you handle yourself well, they respond with cooperation and trust. The atmosphere at the table becomes smoother, and you get better reads because people feel comfortable being themselves. Conflict and irritation make the table noisy and unpredictable. A peaceful table benefits the focused player. Even when you face strong or intimidating opponents, maintain the same attitude. Respect does not mean fear. It means recognizing skill without letting it shake your own. Observe carefully, play your game, and trust your preparation. Confidence built on respect is more stable than confidence built on ego. In tournaments, remember that every player is fighting their own mental and emotional battles. Some are tired, others nervous, and some are simply enjoying the experience. Keeping that perspective helps you stay grounded. Poker is not a war. It is a test of patience, focus, and discipline shared among equals. Respect also improves your reading ability. When you see opponents as people rather than obstacles, you begin to notice patterns in how they think. You sense when they are proud, scared, or hopeful. Emotional awareness helps you make decisions that pure math cannot. Finally, respecting others keeps you humble. No matter how well you play, luck always has a voice in the outcome. Today you may win with a river card. Tomorrow you may lose the same way. Humility helps you accept both results without emotional swings. It keeps your mind calm and your strategy consistent. Poker tables are filled with stories, veterans, beginners, dreamers, and grinders. Each hand is a shared moment between people chasing the same goal. When you approach the game with respect, you protect your focus and dignity. You play with purpose instead of pride. At the end of the day, respect is not only good manners. It is good strategy. It clears your mind of anger and keeps your decisions sharp. The player who respects everyone, fears no one, and stays calm through all outcomes. That steady mindset carries you deeper into every tournament and builds a reputation that lasts far beyond a single event. Chapter 28. Tracking your progress. Improvement in poker does not happen by accident. It comes from reflection, awareness, and honest tracking of your own performance. Many players repeat the same mistakes for years because they never look back to understand what went wrong. Tracking your progress turns every session into a lesson and every mistake into growth. Start by keeping a simple record of your tournaments. You do not need anything fancy. Write down the date, type of event, buy-in, result, and how far you advanced. Add short notes about key moments, such as big hands or emotional swings. Over time, these records reveal patterns. You will see where you perform best and where your habits break down. Beyond results, track decisions. Winning or losing a hand is not as important as whether you played it correctly. You can lose a hand, but still make the right choice. After each session, recall 2 or 3 hands that stood out. Ask yourself, did I have a clear plan? Was my decision logical, or was it emotional? These quiet reflections sharpen your awareness. Emotions deserve tracking too. Notice when you feel rushed, tired, or tilted. Patterns often repeat. You might discover that you lose focus late at night, or that you get impatient after long card-dead stretches. Once you recognize these triggers, you can prepare for them. Awareness turns emotional weakness into controlled discipline. Study your stack management over time. Are you playing too tight with big stacks, or too loose when short? Do you lose chips slowly through small pots, or suddenly through large ones? Each question helps identify where adjustments will create the biggest improvement. Using software or notes on your phone can help, but the format is less important than consistency. The act of reviewing is what matters most. The more often you analyze your play, the faster you learn. Professional players spend hours studying their own hands, not to punish themselves, but to understand patterns clearly enough to fix them. When you track your progress, celebrate small improvements. Maybe you stayed calm through a bad beat or folded a marginal hand that would have cost chips in the past. These are real victories. Measuring growth only by money finishes hides the progress that builds real skill. The path to long-term success is full of small, steady steps. Share your notes with trusted friends or study groups if possible. Talking through hands with others exposes blind spots you might miss alone. Different perspectives strengthen your reasoning. Just remember that every player has their own style, so apply advice carefully. Take what fits your mindset and leave the rest. Tracking your progress also builds confidence. When you see proof of improvement, even in small ways, it reminds you that your work matters. Poker can feel random at times, but long-term data reveals order. You will start to see that discipline pays off and luck balances out. Be honest with yourself. It is easy to record wins and forget losses, but the lessons hide in the mistakes. Write down what hurt and why. A single honest note about a bad play teaches more than a dozen small victories. Honesty builds strength because it clears away denial. At the same time, do not be harsh. Every player makes mistakes. The goal of review is understanding, not punishment. Treat your past self with patience. You were learning then, and you are still learning now. Improvement in poker is endless, which means every record you keep is part of a lifelong process. Tracking your progress keeps you connected to growth, not luck. It turns poker from a game of chance into a craft. Over months and years, you will see yourself evolve, calmer, sharper, and more aware. The best players are not those who never make mistakes, but those who learn from every one they make. When you write down your journey, you build something no variance can erase. You build proof that you are becoming the player you always wanted to be. Chapter 29. Preparing mentally before each session. How you feel before a tournament often shapes how you play. Many players sit down without preparing their mind. They carry outside stress, distractions, or excitement straight into the game. The result is rushed thinking and uneven focus. A short mental routine before each session can change that completely. Calm preparation builds clarity, confidence, and consistency. Start by arriving early or logging in with time to spare. Rushing increases tension and narrows your attention. Give yourself space to settle in. Look around the room or the screen and breathe slowly. Let your thoughts slow down until the noise of the world fades and the table becomes your only focus. Set a clear intention for the session. It does not need to be about winning. Focus instead on what you can control, making good decisions, staying patient, or keeping emotions balanced. A simple goal like "I will stay calm after every hand," or "I will think through my position before acting," keeps your mind steady no matter what happens. Leave everything outside the table behind. If you had a stressful day, take 1 minute to acknowledge it, then let it go. Picture setting those thoughts aside, as if you are leaving a heavy bag at the door. The table deserves your full attention. When your focus stays in the present, your game naturally improves. Body awareness helps too. Sit comfortably, feet flat, shoulders relaxed. Take a few slow breaths through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Feel your heartbeat settle. Physical calm leads to mental calm. Many players overlook this connection. The body and mind mirror each other, and steady breathing keeps both under control. Visualize a few common scenarios before the cards are dealt. Imagine losing a hand to a bad beat, then taking a deep breath and moving on. Imagine being card dead, but staying patient. These small visual rehearsals train your mind to react calmly when the real moments arrive. Preparation turns emotion into habit. If you keep notes or study materials, review 1 or 2 key reminders before play. It might be a chart of push-fold ranges, a note about position awareness, or a simple line that says fold is always an option. Small mental cues help reinforce discipline when fatigue sets in later. Make sure your environment supports focus. Keep your area clear, with water nearby, and distractions removed. For online play, close extra tabs and silence notifications. For live play, keep your phone away and maintain a calm posture. Small actions show your brain that it is time for serious, steady work. Do not feed on adrenaline before the game. Avoid rushing, arguing, or checking results from previous sessions. Emotional spikes before play create tension that lingers into early decisions. You want stillness, not excitement. A calm start creates a calm rhythm, and calm rhythm leads to strong play. If you are nervous, remember that everyone else feels it too. Even professionals feel tension before cards are dealt. Confidence comes from preparation, not perfection. You are here to play your best, not to force results. Trust the habits you have built through practice. Finally, give yourself permission to enjoy the process. Poker is serious, but it should also be satisfying. Every hand is a small puzzle, every opponent a new story. When you play with curiosity instead of fear, your mind stays open and relaxed. Pressure fades, and clarity returns. Mental preparation is not about superstition or ritual. It is about creating conditions where your best focus can appear naturally. Each session begins long before the first hand is dealt. The few quiet minutes you spend centering yourself are as important as any strategy you will use during the game. When you enter a tournament with a calm mind, steady breath, and clear intention, you become unshakable. Win or lose, you play with full presence. And in poker, presence is the true form of control. Chapter 30. Long-term mindset for poker growth. Poker is a long journey, not a single event. Every hand, every tournament, and every session is only one piece of a larger story. Players who chase instant success often burn out. Players who focus on steady growth become stronger with each passing year. The long-term mindset is what turns a hobby into a craft, and a game into a lifelong skill. The first truth of poker growth is that progress takes time. You will face stretches of bad luck and moments of frustration. Variance does not care how well you play in the short run. What matters is how you respond. Staying calm through those swings is the mark of a mature player. When others panic, you stay patient. When others give up, you keep learning. View every session as a lesson, not a test. Whether you win or lose, something valuable happens. Maybe you spotted a new pattern in your opponents. Maybe you folded correctly in a tough spot. Even a mistake becomes useful once you study it. Growth in poker comes from reflection, not results. Keep your ego small and your curiosity large. The best players never stop learning. They review hands, read books, study with others, and question their own habits. Confidence without humility turns into stagnation. Curiosity keeps your game evolving. Ask yourself often, what can I do better? That question builds strength quietly over time. Patience is another part of long-term thinking. Big wins come and go, but discipline endures. Many players succeed once and then drift backward because they stop respecting the basics. Staying grounded in fundamentals, position, stack management, and emotional control will keep you stable through every phase of your poker career. Bankroll management is also part of this mindset. Protect your funds the same way you protect your stack in a tournament. Never play limits that threaten your confidence or your finances. A healthy bankroll gives you freedom to focus on decisions instead of fear. When pressure about money disappears, logic returns. Balance your poker life with real life. Rest, exercise, and personal time are as important as study. A clear mind makes better reads, and a happy life supports a sharp mind. Poker is demanding. You cannot stay consistent if you let it consume everything else. Long-term players learn to recharge between sessions. Celebrate progress quietly. Mark your improvements in focus, patience, or emotional control. Those victories last longer than any single tournament finish. Success in poker is not about peaks of luck. It is about the steady line that rises slowly with time. Surround yourself with people who share your goals. Positive environments create motivation. Talk with players who respect the game, not just the money. Study groups, friends, or mentors can help you see the game from new angles. Poker is a solo pursuit at the table, but a shared craft outside of it. Most importantly, stay humble toward the game itself. Poker has no finish line. Even the best players continue to evolve. The cards keep changing, strategies shift, and new players bring new ideas. Accept that mastery is a direction, not a destination. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to improve one small detail at a time. In the long run, poker rewards those who combine patience with consistency. Luck may change hands, but habits do not. If you stay disciplined, reflective, and curious, the game will reward you far beyond money. It will teach focus, emotional control, and the value of calm thinking under pressure. Each session, each lesson, and each breath at the table adds to your quiet growth. When you play with the long-term mindset, results become milestones, not judgments. You stop asking, "Did I win today?" and start asking, "Did I play well today?" That is how champions think. Poker is a lifetime teacher. The more respect and discipline you bring to it, the more it gives back. Stay patient, stay steady, and keep learning. Growth is slow, but it never stops. And those who play with calm focus today are the ones still smiling years from now, still studying, still improving, and still in love with the game.